Down past the dawn meadow of the rabbit-foot clover, lying south past yonder star deep in the forest, is the magical place I know as the Whispering Lake. These waters lie in the Acadian forest, in that enchanted place where temperate and boreal forests come together. Here, almost exactly halfway between the equator and the North Pole, clear days promise warmth, and cloud shadow promises coolness, and when I arrive, the land is still enveloped by the chill of morning. I have come here on a hunt, on a quest, to capture an eagle. I have tried to capture this clever bird for years, and always he seems to be just a step ahead of me, as if he knows when I happen to be lurking about with a camera. So today I've come early. I've pulled my canoe well under the trees, and I've set up a base of operations 2 or 3 kilometers from where I believe his nest to be. But it's early yet, and the dawn is chill, and a man has to have his priorities. The wildlife upon the lake can wait, long enough, I think, to enjoy a cup of tea. I've brewed a black tea with a handful of bunch berries, an old favorite of mine. The bunch berries lend the tea a mild apple flavor. And now that it's properly brewed and steeped, I'm just going to take a moment and relax after the long paddle. Well, in truth, it wasn't that long a paddle, but to get to this point requires portaging a canoe in, because the woods lying westerly, between here and the foot trail, are too dense to walk through. So I brought the canoe in, placed all the gear aboard, paddled several hundred meters to this location, and then brought the canoe out of the water. I can't say that it wasn't a lot of work, but one nice thing about going somewhere by canoe is I don't have to worry that much about weight. A modestly sized canoe like my 15-footer can easily carry 2 people and several hundred kilos of equipment if I so chose. And for a lightly equipped trek into the woods like this, it makes it easy enough to bring along a few luxuries, such as a convenient butane stove and a folding chair and a packable table. Well, a pleasant cup of tea is all nice and good, but there's work to be done. I've come here to capture a bald eagle, and that's exactly what I intend to do. And with that in mind, there's gear to set up. It's a very windy day, so I've positioned my base of operations just inside a little rise and behind the trees near the lake to give me some shelter from the worst of it. But there's no getting around the fact that I'll have to be right on the edge of the lake to capture the imagery that I came here for. For starters, I'll set up an observation point about 24 meters from my base. There's a little peninsula to my left and my right, just enough to spare me and the gear from the worst of the wind. And so I begin setting up my trap, a very durable packable tripod and an APS-C camera with a 400mm zoom lens. And because I know there will be a lot more here than just the eagle that I hope to capture today, I'm also carrying a very high-end point-and-shoot super zoom, a GoPro, and a small but very capable gimbal. I think I'm ready for anything, but I've been trying to capture this eagle for years, and no matter what tricks I've had up my sleeve, he's always found a way to outwit me. Oh well, even if he does again, I'm still going to spend a day deep in the woods, beside a gorgeous lake that almost no one knows of, observing the secret behaviors of sequestered wildlife. And so the hunt begins. Like all hunts, it is mostly a matter of stillness and patience, and my determination to outlast this fickle weather, determined to pound me down with its winds. But blow though it might, it is beautiful. Westwards are shallows rich with aquatic plants, and I spin the camera that way, maximizing its zoom range, There are multiple families of waterfowl everywhere, loons, and various species of grebes and ducks. I'm not really a birder and can't tell what they are at this distance, though I'm sure some persons I know could at a glance. I've often thought to take up birding, at least to become good enough to identify more of the waterfowl and interesting species of songbirds and various woodpeckers that live in the region. But every time I've tried, I end up becoming fascinated by new plants and fungi I've found, and find myself becoming sidetracked. Still, I certainly wish I had in this moment. Look at all the waterfowl over there. It's a virtual colony of various species of birds. I know that there is a lodge of beavers just over there among those bullhead lilies and reeds, and I set up here specifically because I was hoping to catch a video of them and their activities through the day. Yet I've not seen a one, and this has me concerned. I've been filming for over 4 hours and no sign of them whatsoever. I would be inclined to paddle the canoe over there, as it's only a couple hundred meters away, and take a look at their lodge and try to get an idea if anything has happened to it. But it's simply too windy. This is a job for Eco 3, a small light drone that I use to monitor the welfare and behavior of wildlife. For 10 minutes I have Eco 3 orbit around the position of the lodge, looking for any signs of activity. I've never known beavers to be disturbed by the activity of my drones whatsoever. I don't think they're all that worried about aerial predators, therefore the drones themselves don't bother them. But the drones are a lot louder than any bird, and I don't want to accidentally disturb them either. But once I'm confident there's no activity there, I move the drone in for a closer look. The exits to the lodge would be under the water, so we wouldn't be able to spot much in the way of tracks on top of the lodge, though sometimes one can get lucky and see them entering and exiting the lodge through the water, especially when it's this clear. But while I still don't see any activity, I take comfort in seeing that the lodge looks to be intact. It is possible that some predator, or a human, has done harm to the beavers when they were on land seeking food. I hope not, but all I can do is keep my fingers crossed. This lake is rich in bullhead lilies, which provides a rich food source for this colony of beavers. It is possible I simply haven't seen them because they haven't come anywhere near land all through the day. From a beaver's perspective, why take the risk of going on land where they are vulnerable when they can harvest from the safety of the underwater world? There is nothing further I can do here, and I recall the drone. Once it's landed, I head back to the base and make more bunchberry tea. I'm feeling like a little more flavor, so this time I add several additional handfuls of bunchberries. They're all around me. I literally can't take a step here without walking on them. Something I hate to do. I hate to see good berries go to waste, but what can one do? I had been contemplating bringing my alcohol stove, or an even more ecologically minded miniature wood stove. But given the heavy wind and the tremendous occasional gusts, I'm honestly glad I hadn't. I would have had to go through some effort to set up an adequate wind shelter to keep an alcohol stove going. And the wood stove, no matter how environmentally friendly and no matter how little wood it burns, would still make sparks. And even though the land is wet right now, I would as soon not risk that, not with this wind. But it's a good thing I decided to set up the base just behind a little rise, because even with the butane stove, which is fairly resistant to wind, the gusts would probably be sufficient to blow the fire out had I not had the trees and that little rise to shield me from the brunt of it. Once the tea is made, it's time to start lunch. And for this, I am well equipped with dried foods Daphne made for me a couple of years ago. I've brought along a Ziploc bag with a mix of rice and broad beans from our garden that we have cooked and then dried, so they cook again quite easily. I've thrown into this mix a mushroom I found earlier and chopped up, along with a couple organic pepperoni sticks from supplies at the cottage. A barkless stick hanging from a tree becomes a spoon to stir it up. I add all the ingredients to the pot as soon as the water is boiling, and go for a little walk nearby while it simmers, taking stills and videos of this little beauty and that, waves and light and rushes in the water, and the nearly ripe fruits of a wild raisin growing at the edge of the forest, and a wonderfully colorful leaf that stands out from among all the rest it has fallen among. Even the glittering of a damselfly, which has taken shelter from the wind in the lee of a hillock, becomes a subject of photography. In a forest, there is beauty everywhere you turn. It's a still moment. Let's have a look. I head back to the base and enjoy a leisurely lunch over the next few minutes. And then I take a small camera and the gimbal with the intent of hiking up around the point to see if there are more waterfowl, or perhaps the beavers are busy just around it, out of sight. I didn't find the beavers nor waterfowl, but I was delighted to come across a boggy area full of low bush cranberries. They look to be 2 or 3 weeks till they're ripe, but I know exactly where I'm going to gather the ingredients for fresh cranberry sauce come the holiday season. Then I heard the cry, and my cranberry bog was instantly forgotten. My bald eagle had arrived, and I made a mad dash back to the camera with a 400mm lens. What words can I give to an experience like that? The culmination of years of try, and then being able to catch the beauty and the grace of his movement with that incredible camera. For a moment, just a moment, it felt like being up there among the clouds with the eagle. I found myself lost in thought as the rest of the day passed, almost mindlessly shooting footage of the myriad waterfowl on the far side of the lake. And as I did, the wind picked up, and the rushes, lilies, and grasses alongside the lake began to undulate like waves. And after hours of filming, I walked back to the base camp to make dinner, and was fortunate to catch a raven in flight just as I had my little camera out. The raven, though, may not have been too happy. He veered off as soon as he saw me, as if irritated to be caught on camera without his consent. As dinner, the same thing I had had for lunch, simmered in the pot over the cheery hissing of the little butane stove. I ate and pondered the flight of the eagle, feeling privileged to have shared in that sublime moment, and doubly so to have been able to film it and share it once again. And so much was I wrapped up in these thoughts that I forgot the passing of time and failed to notice the lowering of the sun upon the horizon over the whispering lake. The water turned fiery gold beyond my canoe, and I regretfully realized it was time to pack it in and head back to the cottage and the homestead, but that was okay, because in those cerulean skies, I knew my eagle would fly again tomorrow, so long as there are secret places like this lake and that shall be so long as we are wise enough to care for this one and only earth.